Hello YouTube, it's Seamus, and today I have a Overwatch discussion video, and it's gonna be a bit of a doozy. So this is something that I've been wondering whether or not I should make a video about and discuss, and I think this game is a really incredible game and I want it to grow, so I don't want to shy away from tough topics just because if for whatever reason my opinion does get heard, it's considered the wrong way to go and I lose potential employment anywhere else, but you know what I mean. Anyway, so yeah, the topic I want to discuss today is cheating, and cheating in all games, sort of the effect that cheating has on the game, the scene, and in Overwatch. And unfortunately, so far, this game of ours has not been reversed to scandal, has not avoided scandal, I guess. It's been said before, and some current players have been accused of cheating. There were former cheaters that are currently playing as professional players, and it's wondered whether or not those players are actually cheating now. For those of you who aren't aware, much earlier during the beta time and probably into release as well, players like Sure4 or Taimu from C9 and Envious were questioned whether or not they were hacking. And honestly, it's a very, very weird thing to gauge in a game with 20 ticks when the refresh rate of the game seems very odd. The way the weapons will track sometimes is very, very hard to tell whether or not it's actually done by an automated source or whether or not it's natural. But besides just that, there are also two players who are currently playing for TSM, the TJO brothers, who are also in the past have had a history of cheating. And I'm just going to say my opinion on the current situation is I want to be very optimistic, and I certainly think that all the current owners, Hastro for Envious, Jack for Cloud9, Reginald for TSM, all of those owners would be super, super against cheating in Overwatch, and as a result, I hope that, honestly, you know, perhaps this is a little bit naive optimism, but that all the players that have had accusations against them are fake, because if the accusations are real, in the future cheating will be discovered, the Overwatch scene will be hurt for it. For those of you who know Thorin, he is a fantastic esports historian. He has a YouTube channel of his own that honestly, you should go check that out right now if you haven't heard of him, or if you haven't watched one of his videos. He has a video on cheating where he discusses the topic, discusses some of the things that should be done against cheating in Counter-Strike, Global Offensive, and CSGO. If Valve, if the company that develops the game, finds out that there are pro players that are cheating, like what they should do, etc. And this is like supplementary to that. What Thorin discusses is much more in depth. There's a lot of things discussed, and even if you don't honestly know the game and the scene itself, you'll understand the video and the meaning behind his words. So there have been accusations that players, that current Overwatch pros and likely in the future, are cheating, and completely honestly, I still want to remain optimistic that these guys aren't cheating. If they are cheating and it eventually gets found out, there will be a holy hellfire of punishment that not only the players will themselves receive and the organizations themselves, but also the game, Overwatch itself. If you look at Envious's current track record, the legacy they have built and are building in professional Overwatch, it is massive. If that is thrown away because one of their players or two of their players or all their team, we don't really know, is supposedly a hacker, like, that's really, really a detriment to the history and the story and the legacy that these players and this organization has brought about, which I firmly want to believe in. This is, again, a little bit naive potentially, but until there is hardcore evidence, I want to say that, give the players the benefit of the doubt and recognize that their owners certainly would not allow cheating whatsoever. That being said, though, and I want to try and keep this as public as I can, as many opinions I want to form. I don't want any sort of insider information that I have to influence this channel. I will say that in this case there are pro players who, sort of because of the Reddit hive mind, but also for other reasons, have their opinions of cheaters in professional Overwatch, and believe that there are some people who are incredibly fishy, and whether or not that actually amounts to cheating or whether or not they're just suspect, I'm certain there's dozens of professional players in Overwatch. If we count like the top 10 teams between North America and Europe, there's a bunch of players with a lot of opinions, honestly, and some of them probably think that half the guys they're playing against are cheating just because they're really good. And that's kind of an issue is with FPS games. Sometimes the skill you see is mind-boggling. Sometimes the ability for people, and in all games as well, to make these plays are so impressive that people can get jealous and frustrated. But throughout the history of competitive games and games in general, there have always been cheat codes. There have always been hacks. You know, I was actually reading an article earlier by a Korean League of Legends former player and now caster, who was talking about scripters in League of Legends. That's basically where you have the computer do it for you. Counter-Strike has had aimbotting issues, has had wall hacks issues. There's cheats in every game, and that's an unfortunate part of gaming, is that the competition will exist, but since it's digital, since it's a video game, there will be people who try to break the competition in their favor. And the reasons why they do that are certainly not sympathetic, but understandable. Like, people have perhaps ego issues and just want to be successful. People want to boost their rank to a certain degree and then sell their account for money. It's you know, it's not the right thing to do at all, but there are human reasons why people cheat. So I don't want people to just think, like, how could someone do something like this? That being said, though, understand that I think that people who are cheaters are absolute scumbags, and you hurt not only yourself in the long term because you will get caught, but you also hurt the growth of the game. You hurt the reputation of the game, the integrity of the game itself. If a ladder at the highest level is comprised of a ton of cheaters, people won't take that game seriously. They'll think it's not very competitive because it's bots that are playing the games. So it is really, really important that, you know, the integrity is maintained. And who can control that integrity? Who is the watchman? I guess that is generally the publisher of the game itself. And in this case, that would be Blizzard, the developer, publisher, and presenter, I guess. And from my understanding, they recently had a ban wave, actually today. I think there's an article about it. They have been really, really adamant about it so far. There's an article a few weeks ago, or near to the launch of the game, where a bunch of Chinese hackers were banned. And the nice thing about Overwatch is the fact that it's a $40 buy-in. The game costs $40. So cheaters will lose pretty serious amounts of money if they do get caught out and do get banned, which is very good. That being said, though, the community does have a part in detecting cheaters as well. However, it's not witch hunting people and just going after people because things seem fishy. I know that for anyone who really has used Reddit before, something that's called the circle jerk or the hive mind is a very, very common joke where everyone on Reddit supposedly hates a certain player because he did something wrong, or everyone thinks this guy is cheating because there's one fishy video. And that's not the way to go about things. The way to go about things is to rationally look at presented evidence, and if there isn't any hard evidence, you cannot make a hard, firm judgment off of that. That's at least what I believe. Maybe this is a little bit too political, and I certainly don't want to feel like I'm ranting, even though I totally am. But the idea of, like, innocent until proven guilty is something that I think applies here. And just because you're playing against someone at rank 78 who had some insane tracking or some crazy flick that looked like it was a bot, like, doesn't mean you should go and try and flame him or post the videos onto Reddit and say that this guy is hacking or whatever. It just means that perhaps that's worth looking into. And if I'm not mistaken, and this honestly isn't my field of expertise, so correct me if I'm wrong here, but Counter-Strike has the Overwatch system, pretty ironic, where they have community-led feedback as far as cheating is concerned. And this, in conjunction with tools from Blizzard, might be a good idea. I still think it's a little bit risky, but the issue with the tools that Blizzard make and just hacking in general is that for all the people who will try and boost the security systems, there will always be people who try and break them. And it's not a game you can win. It's not a race that can be won by the good guys, by the people who are trying to prevent hacking. It's sort of an ongoing struggle that just continues to exist and is honestly something that I really hope whoever is working on security and anti-cheat detection stuff is rewarded handsomely for, because they have so much work to do. The issue is when you have very specialized cheats, when they aren't distributed very hard, they're hard to detect because they might look different from something that is on the radar, for example, and I do know that there are communities of cheaters and such, and I do not recommend going to them, and I do not recommend downloading some of them. Some of those are probably just straight up viruses, and you will get screwed if you check that out. But the thing that I'm really worried about is not the easy to detect stuff, it's the really hard to detect stuff, and if that ever gets into the upper tier players, because if it does get into the upper tier players, like, it's a huge shame. The amount of effect it will have on the scene itself, especially when it's such a young scene, when it's a growing scene, when it's trying to sort of spread its wings, to have some of its legacy and players tarnished with the idea that they might not be actually as skillful as they are, and their ability was based off of, and their success was based off of not their own innate talent, but instead a way to cheat the system, is really, really scary. Because honestly, the players themselves as of right now won't be caught until a certain amount of time. They will be caught, but it'll take till a bunch of LAN tournaments exist, and if there are actually players, it'll take till Blizzard's detection systems improve, and it's so long as they're being successful, these potential pro players who are cheating, they will still be making money, they will still be building their brand, they will still be becoming more and more popular, I guess, when they are building that off of a lie. And eventually that bubble, that cheating success is going to break, and the way in which they are excommunicated out of the community might change depending on how Blizzard handles it, but it is a detriment to the community as a whole. If Blizzard decides to go the public way, and in the future if there are cheating pros and says this pro, that pro, and that pro, and that pro is a cheater and kicks them out, then that's gonna really suck. These sorts of discussions are also very, very featured in Thorn's video, so again, absolutely recommend it. Honestly, just pause my video, go watch him. His content's much higher level right now than mine is. Another option is that Blizzard just tells the players, puts them aside, says, "Hi, XXX player, I know you were cheating. You need to retire quietly now and not make a scene, and that'll be that." And I think that might be the best way to go, because if it does turn out that a lot of Overwatch pros currently are cheating, then the people who hurt the most of it aren't the pros that were cheating. They'll be making their money, and sure, their reputation and stuff is ruined, but they already had their moments in the sun, and probably that skill plus cheating potential that got them to this position of fame or whatever wouldn't have existed unless they were aimbotting. So anyway, if it does end up being some sort of situation where it's discovered that multiple professional Overwatch players are hurting, we will lose legitimacy as a game that was built off of lies, off of cheaters. The viewers themselves will suffer because honestly, it's a matter of being a role model and all these awesome things. You know, there are probably children right now who are watching professional competitive Overwatch and saying, man, this is really cool, you know? I want to be like my favorite player, Bob, or whatever. But if it turns out Bob is like a lying piece of shit, then that little kid, hopefully he doesn't find out, but that little kid eventually will realize that, you know, his role model or whatever is screwed. And to all the people who love watching the game and love playing the game, long term, Blizzard is probably going to be in trouble too if it turns out that there have been professional players, even if it isn't Blizzard's fault that the professional players who might potentially be cheating weren't caught earlier. Like, Blizzard could only do so much when it comes to cheating detection as of right now. I'm sure there are many things they are doing behind the scenes that we don't even know about, but again, it goes back to, is every cheat hackable and every cheat like discoverable? It takes time. It's not a sort of instant thing. And if Blizzard is trying to build this esport, which we know they are, then it would be horrible for the players that have been a part of this esport to not actually be real players, not who they are, and basically be fake. The entire history before any sort of high-level competition would be made up. Like, it's not good for Blizzard either, and even if they're trying to do their best they can, until we actually get to a situation where there are many lands for Overwatch, then it's going to be hard to measure whether or not all the players are who they say they are. And again, I'm just saying this because I would like to be optimistic but cynical, you know? As of right now, we have no hardcore evidence, or little to no hardcore evidence, I mean, not that I know of, that there are players who are suspicious, which means that we should not go witch hunting, which means that we should not try and attack players or ruin their lives. However, there are some things that have been suspicious in the past, and that means that we should probably take the time to just question that and keep an open mind to the possibility that there might be something fishy going on, and just trying to monitor it to make sure that isn't actually the case. But yeah, like, it's a very, very poor situation for pretty much everyone involved, even the people themselves. Let's say you are a good player, but you're not great, and you decide to use some hacks and you end up being a professional level player. Like, chances are you might have been able to develop your goodness into something better and actually be a pro player. I'm of the firm belief that to a certain extent, hard work can outmatch many things. And if you're a good player but you feel like you can't get by without cheating, then you're only hurting your own development, honestly. Not to mention the scene and everyone who loves the game and wants to watch the game and enjoy the game. But yeah, cheating itself is a very, very hard topic to discuss. Don't cheat. That's what I would suggest to you. Stay in school. Don't do drugs. Don't cheat. Okay, one of those things. Doesn't really matter. Two of those. Anyway, I'm just kidding around. But seriously, it's very important to discuss what cheating is and the fact that it might exist, and if it does, you know, what are some of the things we do to deal with it, and how would cheating affect the community if it does? Because I don't think anyone, if cheating gets discovered, actually benefits. Like, the only benefit for parties that are cheating is the monetary gain and the fame that the cheaters acquired up until that point, because by then it's very, very unlikely they have a career. By then their teammates might be in trouble just because the teammates might be associated with that cheating and might also know, in which case if you are associated with someone who's cheating and you know of that cheating and you are okay with it, then you are just as much of a scumbag as the other person is. And you might say, Seamus, so you say that if you're cheating, your reputation is tarnished, and as a result, you shouldn't be involved in the scene. I do agree with that, but I do think one thing also that community should be open to second chances, and that's why I think the TJO brothers are currently an example of, I mean, this is kind of a hard thing to discuss. Like, I'm not sure about the TJO brothers' involvement in the scene. Like, as it stands, their owner, their leader, Reginald of TSM, said that they aren't cheating, and I will take Reginald's word for it, and I think they could be a part of this community so long as they aren't cheating. That being said, I recognize their history, and if it comes around that they actually have been cheating this entire time, then that's certainly not like a situation that we'd want to find, and maybe some people would say I told you so, but again, I honestly want to believe in second chances here. Again, I'm being a little bit too optimistic, I think, and not cynical enough. But yeah, I'd like to say optimistic and cynical and certainly watchful of people, but I do want people to show themselves and get a chance to prove themselves and right wrongs they made in the past, if that is the case. However, whether or not Blizzard actually decides to ban certain players who have been caught for cheating in other games is up to them, honestly. In their discretion, it might actually be a better decision not to allow cheaters, just on the off chance that history might tarnish their name, sully their reputation. But considering TSM, Team Solo Mid, one of the largest esports organizations in essentially the world, allowed the TJO brothers in, like, I think they might be okay with it if that actually ends up being a decision. But again, so yep, I don't really know even how to end this video, because it's something that I feel like I could talk about for hours and hours and hours, but I want to keep my videos to a certain length. So yeah, I'll just end on the fact that cheating, again, doesn't really help anyone in the long term. It hurts everyone in the long term, and the short-term benefit that you might have of cheating and in reality is horseshit. You're not skillful. You're not at the level you say you are. The money you've made is essentially fraudulent. And not to sound very preachy, but if you want to cheat, then I certainly hope you do not find happiness through the people you are cheating, as well as yourself. Like, there's really no honor, and I have just no regard for you as a person if you're a person who's completely okay with just cheating people away and cheating them for money and cheating them for fame and cheating them for notoriety and skill, versus all of the people that are actually hardworking and trying to make themselves into something greater and something like a harder working person, a stronger player, etc. But anyway, that's my discussion video for today. It is a weird topic, so I apologize for the rant. But yeah, go check out the Thorn video and go check out his channel. His channel's sort of, to a certain extent, I think of him as a really big role model, and I do want to model some of my content after him, specifically for Overwatch and maybe other games in the future. But yeah, this has been Seamoose. That's going to be all for now. I will talk to you all tomorrow with my basic guide on... Oops, I don't actually have my schedule in front of me, so... Sorry, I'm not sure who I'm going to make the guide video on, but yeah, I'll be hitting you all up with a basic guide video tomorrow and then making my guide. See you all then, and thank you for watching.